Welcome to the Connor Trillin podcast, where I, Connor Trillin, meet up with a musician, hear about what makes them tick, what kinds of experiences they're bringing into their musical journey. On today's episode, we have Jillian Dawn, singer-songwriter, guitar player I met over at LowerDeck Sessions here in LA, Encino in parentheses. So she's somewhere between pop, indie, country, and rock, graduated from University of Miami Frost School of Music, and is now living in Nashville, doing a ton of writing, performing. I really enjoyed talking with her at the Lower Deck show, really enjoyed her songwriting voice, and she was nice enough to come onto the podcast. So stick around for her song Matty in a little bit, and please enjoy Jillian Dawn. Jillian, last name is?
Dawn.
That's your last name?
Wait, what?
Today I learned that Dawn wasn't your last name. What's your real last name?
Oh, it's not. No, my real last name's Hobaica.
Hobaica. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Hobaica.
Nice. Represent. I had the pleasure of meeting you over at Lower Deck Sessions a month ago, and your stuff is great. Your voice is great. Your songwriting's great. It's nice when you run into someone whose energy is like calm and confident, and it's like you also have a ton of talent, so it's nice when it's just like, this is a great person to be around. I really enjoyed it.
Oh my God, you're too kind. I felt the same way with you. I was like, this guy's amazing, and I feel like we could talk about anything, and I just met him, so that's the best kind of intro to someone, you know?
I appreciate it. I enjoyed getting to do some research about you, and thank the Lord you have some interviews in the past that I can sort through a little bit. I have a ton of interest in your like early start to this, because you like started singing the national anthem at 5. You're like writing songs at 10 on a bus with friends, but then you said that you made 2 EPs in high school, and I'm curious just logistically how, and then 2, how you feel about that at this point in your life looking back.
Yeah. So yeah, I started my career doing musical theater. I was a musical theater kid, and I did dance class, and I did voice lessons and things like that. I started singing again when I was around 5. That's the earliest actual memory I have of singing. And I will like to say, like, I'm very blessed with parents that want to support me and like actually help foster my career rather than just be like, oh, you're doing that. They like are genuinely invested in my career and support me every step of the way. So I'm very lucky to have parents like that. So they like put me in anything that I thought that I had an interest in. And I took off with music because it came not to sound like weird, but it came natural to me, which was not what my parents expected whatsoever. I have no musical background in my family, like distant relatives, yes, but nothing like in my household really. Actually, my sisters can sing, but that's besides the point. So I started doing like musical theater in middle school, and in high school, musical theater again, but I started writing when I was around 12, seriously. I recorded a song when I was 12/13, and it's terrible. It's not terrible, but it's definitely like it shows my progress and where I started from. It was a middle school song. It's called Take It Slow. And that experience, like recording and releasing it, and songwriting became my thing. I don't know if you had a thing in high school and when you were in middle school and things like that, but like it was definitely like, oh, Jill does music, Jill does the songwriting thing, like she writes songs, that's cool, whatever. I realized that it's more than that from like a status thing. It became my like sort of therapy in a way, and my outlet, because I mean, I don't know what drama I had in middle school, but I definitely had some, and I wrote about boys and how they screwed me over and things like that, and songwriting became my way of like expressing how I felt. And so in high school, I recorded those 2 EPs with a guy in Milford, Mass at 9B Studios, Toft Willingham. Wow. And it was a crazy, crazy experience. I had actually found him through a weird connection. My next door neighbor also did music. Cool. Wild. Yeah. And she had recorded with him. And so like parents exchanged information, started recording the first EP when I was in, I think, my sophomore year of high school, junior year maybe.
15, 16, jeez.
Yeah, you can imagine it. Looking back, I'm like, what was I thinking? I was going into the studio, like sometimes my dad came, sometimes I went by myself, or my dad stayed in the car, and I was recording these songs with this guy for like hours on end, and he was great. Like Toft is a great guy, and he's a great producer. He's actually in LA now.
Nice.
But it's just like wild to think that I would go to school and then I'd leave and I'd go drive 40 minutes to Milford and do these like recording sessions. But yeah, I did that sophomore, junior year. And then I recorded my second EP senior year of high school.
Wow.
And that came out September of 2017, because it came out when I got to school. I remember that specifically. And it was a wild time. But I think looking back, like, I didn't do much producing on it at all. I didn't really know anything about producing. I didn't know what went into it. And it was my first experience with all of that. I just was like, oh, I have these songs, would love to have them recorded if possible. And my parents were like, oh, if you're going to do music for college, you're going to need some sort of recorded music to show, like a portfolio of some sort. So they were very kind and helped me invest in this project, or in those projects. And it became a really good starting base for me as an artist. And when I got to school, I had something to show for it.
At 13, how do you record a song? What microphone does a 13-year-old have access to?
Well, we went into the studio and he had like all kinds of instruments and everything available.
What?
And he hired the musicians. Like this guy, Toft, knew, like, he was in a band in Boston. And
I'm talking about your first song. Not in high school. I'm talking about like when you first started, like how.
That was actually with a producer too. I didn't know. I didn't know. Can I swear on this podcast?
Sure, you can do whatever you want.
I didn't know shit about producing. Actually,
Yeah.
I will say I did do like GarageBand when I was younger and would like mess around with it. And I'd go into my closet and I'd just record. I don't know how I did it without a separate microphone. Like I really don't understand how that worked. Because I didn't have this mic until college, I don't think.
Wow, you just went straight into the laptop, probably, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a wild time. But the first guy that I recorded the song with his name was Jimmy Parr, and my dad had a connection with his wife, and so put it together. He was like, hey, like, Jill wants to record a song, like, what does that entail? So I went into the studio and I was like, again, 12, 13, I was like, this is crazy. I was like, I'm Taylor Swift right now. This is so cool. But I didn't do much with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I didn't have much, not that I didn't have any say. Like, I voiced, obviously I wrote the song, but I knew 4 chords on the guitar and wrote the lyrics and the melody, but everything else, like, I didn't know how to play drums. So this guy, like everyone else, kind of filled in where I couldn't, you know.
Yeah. I want to dig into this character of your parents because the majority of the resourcefulness comes from, like, at that early age, it's just them opening doors for you and being like, apart from like driving you to these places and like paying for these sessions and like, which is already an investment enough. Like, what was there? You said they did more than just be like, oh yeah, cool, that's your thing. Like, what were your conversations with them like as you were growing up and doing this? Were they like listening to your songs and providing feedback, or were they like working through these emotions through song? Like, what?
Well, okay, so I'm the oldest child, the eldest daughter in my household, and so I'm like pretty independent when it comes to just like dealing with my emotions and dealing with all this stuff, and I've kind of always just done my thing. So when you say like, did they give feedback on your songs, I would never show them a song. Like, my dad would come into my room and be like, what are you working on? Like, what are you writing? And I was like, not telling you. Like, I'm not showing you until it's done. And they would not hear these songs until I played them at like a talent show or something like that. Like, or a coffee house. Like, they wouldn't hear them until then. I think that, I don't really know, to be honest. Like, I mean, my songs when I was younger were definitely not like Taylor Swift level, like Sarah Bareilles level, you know what I mean? But I think that they are the type of parents that when they see that you're passionate about something and when they know that you like can do it, and they like, my parents, I think they really saw a lot of potential in me, and my parents have always fostered a healthy environment to pursue your potential and to follow your dreams. They will do anything to get us to our dreams. That's basically what it is. And growing up, I had a lot of anxiety too, as artists tend to do. Anxiety with school. I was like a really invested student in my high school and throughout my college career too. Like, but school was a big factor for me. So I had anxiety from school and like performance anxiety with musicals and talent shows and things like that. Like, I was I sang not the national anthem. I sang the first dance for a family friend at her wedding. And I was probably 13 or 12 or 13. And I sang At Last by Etta James. Maybe I was like 14. I don't remember. But I was absolutely terrified the entire day. I was like gonna vomit. Like I felt like I was gonna throw up the whole time. My parents were like, "Are you sick?" And I was like, "No, I think I'm sick. Like, I don't know." And it was just, I was so scared. We've had conversations about that, and they've always been like, you know, it's okay. We love you either way. Like, you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but you have this potential, you have this dream, and we want you to reach it if that's what you want. I've never felt like I couldn't do music, if that makes sense. Like, they weren't like dance mom parents, like on me about everything. But I will say, like, they were my dad specifically and my mom, both of them, but they always pushed me. So like if I was being lazy and I wasn't following up on emails about gigs and things like that, this went into like freshman year, even a little bit of sophomore year in college. Like if my dad was like trying to get me gigs at places and if I didn't follow up, he'd get on me about that. You know, like he'd get on my case. He'd be like, you need to be taking care of your own business. Like you need to do this, you need to do this. And it taught me a lot. My parents are not musically, they're not like music people. They don't understand that, but they are business people. I grew up working for my family business. My grandfather started a pool company.
Nice.
Which is kind of out of left field. But my dad has since taken over handling all of the business of that. And I grew up selling pool chemicals in the retail store and doing all of like that side and like putting in the hard work, earning money and saving up to do this on my own. That taught me a lot about the business ethics and like how you need to put in the hard work to get where you are. And it's not just going to come to you. Like as much as my parents did support me financially for all of this, it was never just handed to me. Like it was, I had to be serious about it and I had to like tell them that this is what I was going to do and like follow up with this at the end of the line. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, oh yeah, you're just going to record this, blah, 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 blah. I have since put so much time and effort into my career since that first recording session. You know what I mean? Like the span of time, and I'm in Nashville doing it full time right now. So they've just always fostered that environment for me. And I've been very lucky to have that environment surrounding me because I know a lot of people that don't. And I would not be here today without them.
That's, I feel like retail or just any like real job when you are like working with your hands, like any non-glamorous job teaches you how hard people work for so many jobs, like all the time. I used to work at Subway and these people would just never stop moving. That was their thing. They're like, I'm here for 8 hours. I move for 8 hours. Like, you think you're done? No, there's always something to be doing. And like this attitude of like, oh, you're bored? Like there shouldn't be any boredom because there's always something to do.
For sure. Like my dad, like his family, they built this. My grandfather was a school teacher and he would do like build pools in the summertime when he was in his off months. And he started this company and it's like, it's grown so much because of the hard work that he put in and my uncles have put in and my dad put in and my mom and just like the whole family. And it's a work ethic that I'm so grateful to have learned from. The least I can do is to try to bring that into everything that I do in my daily life. In whatever I pursue. Like, I've never been like, I'm not going to do music just because it's what I love and it's what I'm passionate about, whether it be as an artist, whether it be in the music business side, although I don't know what I would do in the music business side. But I've always brought the idea of like, it's not going to come to you and you're not always going to get what you want out of it. I learned that through musical, like stupid little lessons throughout life. Like I didn't get a part in a play that I thought I was going to get. That sucks. What are you going to do about it? You can only do like what you're best in that role. You know what I mean? And yeah, so I mean, I learned a lot from working the retail. I worked there until last summer. I did that for 7 summers. I started working there when I was 14, 15, I think.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I was not good at the start of it. That's for sure. Yeah. I didn't take it seriously. Like I didn't understand it. And I only worked like 2 to 3 days a week in the summers. And then I was about like full time last summer, assistant manager level almost. Cool.
Man.
Yeah. If you have any questions about a pool, you let me know.
I don't, because I don't have a pool or even access to one. But if I find one around here, I need to get a pool pass because it is nuts hot right now.
Oh, it's nuts hot over here too.
It's summer. What can I say? It's summer.
Yeah.
Nothing to be done. I want to move into your college years. So you went into music school, and that's when you really started honing your chops for live performance. But I'm sure you also learned other things in school. So I didn't go to music school, so I'm not really sure what music school is or does.
Yeah.
Can you tell me like some of these lessons that you're learning as you're gigging all the time in college on weekdays, on weekends? But then you're also like learning in school. So like where do you feel like those years have really contributed to where you are right now?
I think that my college experience helped me find my sound 100%. If you
That's
hear
a big statement.
Yeah. If you hear the difference between what I sounded like the first EPs that we just talked about and my first song after going to school, like my first release since then, it's wild. In my opinion, at least, like lyrically, melodically, I guess a little bit. But yeah, I went to school and I studied in the Frost School at University of Miami. I was not allowed to go to school for music unless I got a minor in business. Cool. Didn't matter what sort of minor, but it had to be a business minor.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to do finance, but then they changed the course load on me, so I switched to marketing, and I'm very thankful that I did. I learned so much from my marketing classes. It was a great addition to what I was learning in my music curriculum. I'd just been this girl in high school who was known as like, oh, she's a songwriter and she does music and blah, 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 blah. In this public high school in the middle of southern Massachusetts. And then I got to this music school surrounded by these amazing, like renowned people that are coming to school to do the same thing that I'm doing, but they're already, like, in my opinion, years and years ahead of where I was. So I figured you could either take two roads with this. You could go and be completely defeated and change majors and leave the music school and be like, oh wait, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing this. Or, this is the road that I took, I was motivated by these people. It made me want to work harder, and it made me want to find a sound that was unique to me, that wasn't trying to conform to anyone, but also like made me feel something. All these people that I was hearing at school made me feel excited about music, and like, I don't know about you, but when I hear a good song, I just like feel it in my bones. I feel it in my soul, not to be cheesy, but that's just what happens. And I felt that with a lot of these people, and I don't think I'd ever had a song that I genuinely felt that way about. So I think the biggest takeaway from my college experience was my peers and just writing music that made me feel what they made me feel, if that makes sense.
How do you find your sound?
I was heavily influenced by a lot of people that did like indie pop and indie rock. So I listened to like their music, and then I listened to bands that I liked on my own and kind of that I found on like Spotify that were similar to them. And it just, I don't know, it just made me excited about what I was singing. And I changed I didn't change my voice intentionally, but I can tell that, like, you can tell from like my original music to the stuff that I've recently released, I have a little bit more rasp. I have a little bit more, like, I sing a little bit more free than I did back then. And it took a lot of trial and error. And I didn't I wasn't like, I'm finding my sound, like this is happening. I didn't make it an assignment for myself. It just kind of happened over the course of my time there. And I mean, I guess some of it was definitely influenced by the assignments that I'd have in school. Like, we got to model songs after a bunch of different artists, which was really cool. We had songwriting prompts. I had a professor, Craig Carruthers, who actually lives in Nashville, and he really helped me, like, he helped me by believing in me, and like he saw something in my writing that hadn't been acknowledged by other professors or people like outside of my peer group, which really pushed me and like made me believe in myself even more, and kind of started steering more into that direction. It helped me dig deeper into what I was trying to say. I think, and I don't think that I've officially found my sound, but I think that where I'm at right now is like where I thrive in writing wise.
Yeah.
And I'm always changing songs though. Like I'm releasing a song in September that's not extremely pop, but it's very, very pop. Like leans more towards commercial than I typically do. It's exciting and I really love the song. Do I think that it goes with the last EP that I just released? No, not at all. It does not. It doesn't work. Does it go with the songs that I want to record in the future? Not really. But it's a song that I really like. I'm proud of and I'm excited about, and it's another piece of my songwriting puzzle in a way.
This teacher, what was he seeing in your songwriting that other people hadn't called out yet?
I guess the program at Miami, how it worked was like you didn't really do songwriting lessons one-on-one until junior year. So I've been in ensembles, and I'm not saying anything like I wasn't acknowledged or anything like that. It's just he was the first person of authority, I would say, that like really said, oh, you're a songwriter, and like this is what you got to do it, and you got to just keep going with this. And he also helped me dig into what I was saying a little bit more. And I also have mutual respect for him as a writer too. Like I really enjoy his music, and I think that he's a genius in the lyric department and things like that. So I learned a lot from him, and by him supporting me, I guess I learned more about myself as well. And he pushed me to to do this. You know what I mean? Like cool. I got to a lot of people that I know in my graduating class are either doing jobs in the music industry or doing what I'm doing or not doing anything in the music industry whatsoever. And I could have gone any which way about that, but I'm in Nashville and I'm pursuing it full time, and I don't think I would be doing it without him and the support of my peers too.
Yeah.
So I phrase that as a question, but it's not a question. It's
no. It sounds like he validated you as what you were hoping you were. Yeah.
I think that's exactly what he did. And I'm trying not to like, he also keeps my ego in check. You know, he's like, you know, you do this, but like you also can do better here, just as a lot of people do. I mean, when I write with other people too, it's you're hearing a lot of different opinions from a lot of different directions, and I could think I'm a genius in something and someone else doesn't think that. That's just the way it rolls, you know. But I definitely feel like he validated my choice in being an artist and a songwriter for sure.
That's amazing. I've been continuing to have these conversations around like how we nurture people and their, like, when we see promise, how do you nurture it versus like there are situations where you see someone and you're like, oh, that's pretty good, but like honestly, like there is room for improvement. Like how do you really call out the person being like, you're doing exactly what you're meant to do on this earth, it is evident. Here are some ways that I think, like, and then being able to hold your tongue when you're not that person to like to say like, here's where I think you can improve, because most people don't need to hear that from you. Like that is mostly not your job. Go for it.
Sorry, I was gonna say, I think a big part about being an artist and what makes or breaks someone in this industry is being able to receive criticism and not freak out over it and not turn it down completely. And I think that that's a lesson that I'm a stubborn person. I am very stubborn, and I like being right and I hate being wrong. And you get a lot of rejection in the music industry. You get a lot of different opinions, and you get judged for pursuing this as a career. And I think that starting as young as I did in the writing industry, like starting at 10, 11, 12, doing writing and then professionally recording and stuff like that, helped me grow a thick skin and helped me become open to criticism versus closed off. Like I will accept all criticism, and then I'll go home and be like, oh, that was dumb. Like I don't agree with that, but I'm not going to be like, no, I don't agree with that to your face. Like I'm going to take it into consideration, you know, like take everything with a grain of salt, but you can't just completely close your mind off of other opinions too. And I think that that's something that has helped me get to where I am, having that in my mind and thinking like, you know what, everyone has their opinion. Everyone's going to want to tell you how to do something. And sometimes you can pick and choose out of those pieces of advice along the way, but you don't have to listen, but you can. It's your choice. You know what I mean?
Would you be willing to share a piece of advice that you were able to incorporate? Like you took it in at the time and you're like, oh my God, that person was right. And like how you've been able to incorporate it since?
Yeah, I kind of touched on it, and it's silly. And everyone thinks that middle school drama is silly, and it is, but it really, I'm not kidding, it has stuck with me to this day. Yeah. 7th grade, 8th grade, I really wanted this part in this musical. Really wanted it. Thought I was going to get it. Busted my ass for this part. And I didn't get it. I got another part, but I didn't get it. I was absolutely devastated.
What was the part?
It was in Bye Bye Birdie, and I wanted to be Rosie. I think her name was Rosie. I might be wrong. But I wanted to be the female lead, and I didn't get it. And it was whatever. And I went home, and I was crying. My parents were like, oh, my God, is she okay? Like, what is going on? She's freaking out. And I think I either asked or my parents asked the teacher, like my drama teacher. He was like, you know what? She didn't get the part. You're not going to get every part. It wasn't the part for her. Someone else fit it better. You can cry, but you need to get over it. Like, you need to get over it. And what are you going to do? You're going to quit the show just because you didn't get the part? No, you got another part. What are you going to do with that part? You need to make the most of every situation you're put in. If it's not ideal, then what are you going to do to make it ideal?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, I've had multiple scenarios with that. Like, I didn't get into a songwriting ensemble that I wanted to get into sophomore year, and then I did country ensemble, and it was a great experience. I made it what I wanted it to be. Made the most of my time in that ensemble, and it really helped me hone my performance craft, because I was like one of 4 or 5 writers, I think, and I was starting to get into this lane of like indie pop, rock, a little bit of country flair, and it just made me like, I wrote a song called Matty. That's what happened. I wrote my song Matty, and that song just makes me, I don't know what it does, but it makes me feel like I'm like ready to dance and ready to get into it. And I remember like one of my first times playing it live, and I was just like jumping up and down, having the time of my life on stage. And I was like, oh, this is exactly what I needed. Like, I made the most, this is what I am taking from this ensemble. Like, am I a country artist? No. Did I want to be in this other ensemble? 100%. But if I hadn't been in this class, and if I hadn't been in this vein of school or whatever it is, I wouldn't have opened my eyes to how I can like improve performance-wise. So just make the most of every situation that you're in. If it's not what you wanted, that's okay. You can cry, get over it, and then keep pushing forward, because you can make it something special.
It takes a lot of resilience to be able to understand rejection as providence. Like this idea of like, when a door closes, it's leading me to the next thing. And that's something that my mom works really hard to teach me all the time. That's a hard one to learn. I mean, while we're on the subject, would you be down to play Matty while we're here?
Yeah, I can play Matty. Okay. He used to have a buzz cut, but now his hair is long. He used to wear t-shirts, but now he's got nothing on. He looks grown up in a kid kind of way. He's got the same smile he had in 3rd grade, but something's different. Something's changed. 'Cause when I watch this car drive away, my little girl heart breaking back one day. Looking at him now, looking back at me, I know that something has shifted for good. I know that Matty's right where he should be. Oh yeah. He had a tree house and swore no girls allowed. sing them for him. Hey! 'Cause when I watch this car drive away, my little girl heart breaking back one day. Looking at him now, looking back at me, I know that something shifted for good. I know that Matty's right where he should be. Oh, hey, hey, hey. I didn't think we'd meet again like this, no. At a bar in a city I still get lost in. I didn't think we'd drink too much. I didn't think we'd end where we've ended up, tangled in the sheets, listening to the beat of a world that just won't sleep. No, I don't think I'll ever sleep again. Mm-hmm. 'Cause when I watch this car drive away, my little girl heart breaking back one day. Looking at him now, looking back at me. Oh, 'cause when I watch this car drive away, my little girl heart breaking back one day. Looking at him now, looking back at me, I know that something shifted for good. I know that Matty's right where he should. I know that I am right where I should be. Ooh. Thank you.
Man, that is so good. You have
Thank
such
you.
good tone. Just
Thank
the
you.
whole, yeah, anytime you're flipping into your head voice, and it's just so many good tones.
Thank you. I used to struggle so hard with that. I remember being in choir at school, and I was like a soprano and trying to learn classical stuff, and I
Dang.
would have the worst transition into my head voice. It was so bad. I'd be like, there was like no mix, no in between at all. So thank you.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's smooth, and it sounds so nice. You have a great voice. People tell you this all the time, but you have a great voice.
Thank you. You're too kind.
I think that's a really cool melody to start the song. I'm trying to remember what the melody is.
He looks grown up in a cute
Yeah, that's
kinda
what I was
way.
thinking of. It feels very contrary to the genre that it's in, which makes it so much more interesting. Where you're immediately like, oh yeah, you don't get to hear that type of a melody. This is just me complimenting your songwriting.
Appreciate it. Well, I think that like the way that I learned melody before I went to school was just like, oh, this sounds cool, or like this is something that Taylor Swift hasn't done but Taylor Swift could do. You know what I mean? When I started off, I was very heavily influenced by Taylor Swift. I will say when I got to school, it helped put the connection to like what I was feeling versus what I was playing and like how it all works. And I was definitely not a music theory person, but I had to take those classes. I'm very grateful for those classes because they helped me like figure out, you know, what melodies would work under this chord, or like what sounds good and how can I change it versus, I mean, your music did the same thing. Like, you know how to do, changes. Like, you can't always do 4 chords or like even 3 chords. Like, you can, and it can sound great if you make an interesting melody, but you need something that's going to keep the song going, you know?
Right.
And I think another thing that I learned, not to go off on another complete tangent, but
Please do.
Matching what you're saying with the melody and how it makes you feel. I have a song on my album 2020 that's called Liar, and it's a whole upbeat song about breaking up with someone and being devastated.
Yeah.
And I did that slightly on purpose. I didn't start off like writing the song, this is going to be what it's like, but all the lyrics ended up being the complete antithesis of what the music was saying. Because as much as like music doesn't have words, music speaks for itself. You know what I mean? Like you hear a song, like what you said, like how you like the melody change in the line. That's something that music is saying to you. Liar is just like complete antithesis of that, like complete opposite vibe. It's like, I never, like, you're making a liar of me. Like, I'm so depressed from this breakup, but it's like all happy. And it's just a weird switch on that device. But I will say I really like to try to use emotions in the way that my melodies are written.
I like it. Any lessons you have from music school? I didn't go to music school, so part of this podcast is me just stealing lessons from music school.
Hell yeah.
I want to hear more about your marketing minor, and then I'll ask you a couple canned questions I ask everybody. What do you feel like you took away from the marketing minor, and where do you feel like it's helping you in your career now?
Well, the biggest thing is I'm working part-time in a day job as a digital content creator for a company. So it's feeding it's paying my bills, learning that knowledge. But I do social media, and I think that social media is such a big part of being an artist today, as I'm sure you know, and everyone else can agree. Like, you can't be an artist nowadays without having an Instagram. You can't not have a TikTok. You can. TikTok is, it's a whole other conversation, but like, you can't have, like, you need a Facebook page. Where are you going to promote your music? Where are you going to promote your shows and all this stuff? And I think that the marketing minor that I had helped put the connection together between things that I knew and I like knew of, and actually like what that meant in a textbook setting. So like, I had a sales class, and I learned a lot from like professional selling stuff and reading people and went like body language and things like that. So that kind of helps with my performance skills. And then with marketing plans, like making a plan to promote something, there's so much that goes into it. Like I knew of like PR, and I knew of publicity, and I knew of graphic design and things like that, but they're each their own beast, and all of those go into a marketing plan of something. So if you have an album that you're going to release, or even a single, like you need to have contacts with a publicist or in a PR setting, and you need to have a graphic designer to make the cover art. And it was I enjoyed taking the knowledge of marketing in the workplace, in like an actual corporate business setting, and translating it to music world. Because I did take a music marketing class, which was great, but I had the knowledge previously because I took it later in my college curriculum, and I had all this knowledge from my other general marketing classes. So it was really interesting to like take that and apply it into my music career. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like the biggest thing that I took from it, but it's just the whole
it
process.
Seems like the general importance of it being like, this is a very important piece of the equation.
Because I'm gonna be honest with you, when my EPs came out in high school, I didn't do shit for them. I posted on Instagram. I was like, what? I'm a 16-year-old girl. Like, this is when Instagram wasn't really even like the huge big part of music. Yes, it was huge, but it was mostly sharing pictures and videos. I think videos were like just starting to get incorporated into it. It was mostly YouTube for videos at the time, and it's kind of crazy how much it's changed, and I'm only 5 years post high school. Like, Facebook was like the main page where you'd post about your things, you know what I mean? And it's changed so much. Now Facebook is nowhere near as relevant as Instagram and TikTok are. And I didn't have a marketing campaign. I didn't know what pushing for playlists was. I didn't know how many weeks ahead of time you were supposed to post about your thing coming out, you know? And now I have a better understanding of it. Have I implemented it into my own career quite drastically yet? No, but it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen for sure, because the more that the world develops and the more that social media develops, the more money you need to put into it to get to a point, you know, like now you pay for playlists and Submit Hub and things like that, and you pay for targeted ads, and you pay for contacts. Like, you can sign up for a like music industry contact list, and you have to pay a certain amount a month, you know?
Right.
So it's all a learning process, but it's hard to keep up because it's changing so quickly.
It's so interesting to chat with you for many reasons, but one of them is we're like actual different generations. Like when I was finishing high school, you were 11, you know? So
Okay,
like
yeah.
really different worlds.
Yeah.
This is me just asking, I'm just being a boomer now. Like what social media do you use? Do you like is social media the main way you communicate with your friends? If so, what do you use? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will say I have two younger sisters. They're twins, and they're 3.5 years younger than me. And their generation, which is a 3-year difference, is drastically different from my generation too. Like I grew up with, I have an iPhone now. I've had an iPhone for a while, but I think I got my first iPhone in like, I don't know, when I was like 13, 14. Like,
Okay.
that's so almost 10 years ago. My sisters had them in freaking like 5th grade. Like,
Interesting.
and you grow up with them and things like that because it started, I don't know. I'm trying to I'm trying to make a bridge between those two, but I've lost my train of thought.
That's fine.
But social media, I had my first Instagram when I was 14 and I had no clue what it was. It was sharing pictures. It was me being a middle schooler and posting flowers on my thing and blah, 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 blah. It has grown since then into this conglomerate of interacting with people and posting reels and videos and stories and all this stuff, and it allows you to reach more people than you would if you were just texting other people. So I use Instagram the most out of social media. I do have a TikTok, but I will say like my TikTok skills and my like how often I use TikTok and post on it is nowhere near people in my sister's generation do. Like my sister has a TikTok and she posts, I don't know, like dance videos and the funny trends and things like that. But she posts it like all the time. Yeah. And I post once a week, maybe once a week. I posted for like the first time last week in like 2 months, I think.
What is some good advice that you can also say bad advice, but what is some good advice that you've received about your music career?
Good advice is to stay as authentic as I can / I want to.
Great. What are some books that have been significant or helpful to you in the last couple of years? You can say you don't read. That's okay.
I read, but I read like for fun, like fiction books.
Yeah, that counts.
But I don't really have any music industry books that I've read that have actually.
No, I'm just talking about like normal books. It doesn't have to be like related to business.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, none that have like influenced me as a business person, but I'd say as like I really love reading fiction books because they can inspire music and inspire songs for me.
Totally.
But I read books like that like a lot, so I have
like what fiction
a bunch. Books? I'm like a big TikTok book girl. So I read like People We Meet on Vacation. I read like all the Colleen Hoover books that are going around on TikTok.
I've never heard about any of this.
It's more like they're like rom-com books. So it's like it's whatever. But I will say I read have you heard of like the Summer I Turned Pretty series that just came out on Amazon Prime?
No.
I read this book series when I was 12, 13, like 11 maybe. I don't even know, but I've read all of them and I've read them at least 4 times each, I think.
Wow.
I loved the series. It was because I was like growing up in the same time. It's basically about this girl she's like 16, I think. She's having her like glow up moment. It's like the summer she turned pretty, and she grew up with these 2 guys that she secretly loved one of them, and like it's just like a love triangle story, and on the base it's about young love and all this stuff. But I was obsessed with them, and it made me. It's like in the summer too, so it just makes you feel like it's like you're young and coming of age and all that stuff. But the series just came out, so I'm so excited to watch the series, but I can't watch it until I'm with my best friend from home because we got to do it together. But yeah, I loved those books. I just love anything that I can like step into and really forget about the world and focus on that. I read Where the Crawdads Sing a couple months ago. Loved that book. I read that in like a day. And yeah, and also The Artist's Way. I think that's what it's called. I don't know who it's by, but it's one of the books. It's all about writing and being creative and how to foster creativity in times where you don't think you can. Yeah, it's a lot of like exercises and stuff too.
I've heard a lot about Crawdad. So I mean, now you got me interested. Everybody loves Young Love. I might give it a spin.
Well, it's like I'm at an age where I mean I'm 23, so I read that when I was like 11, 12 and loved it. And now I'm like reading it. I was like trying to read it again before I watched the series, and I'm like, I don't relate to this anymore. It's so sad that I can't relate to this anymore because I'm not in like high school and I'm not like a teen, and it's weird, but it was a really good series.
That's great. What was the best or worst gig that you did? Feel free to say either.
I don't know if it's my best gig, but one of the best times I've had as an artist was my senior show at school. I played like, I don't even know how many of my own songs, but it was all my own music except for like 2 covers. Mm-hmm. And it was with a band full of people that I love and very talented musicians. And a bunch of my friends came. We were outside of my friend's backyard. My parents came. It was like a house party vibe, but it wasn't like everyone was crazy. And it was just the most fun that I'd ever had. And it was the moment that I realized that like I want to do that for the rest of my life. Yeah. I want people to like be singing along to my music, enjoying themselves, laughing when I fuck up, like being able to like relate to what I'm saying and comfortable in that environment. And that's what I want to do. And it was a real like important moment, because this was before I was even knew I had an idea like I wanted to go to Nashville. Like, I mean, I knew I was thinking about it, but I didn't have any set plans. I didn't have a job. I was like, what am I going to do when I get there? Like, and it was scary to think that, oh, I now have no set plan for the future. I don't have college or a next step to think about. It's all up to me from this point out. That night just made me realize that, I have to find a way to do this for the rest of my life. Not to be super like cheesy about it, but that's how it was for me. And I'd say that was one of my best gigs. And then what one I played the Analog in Nashville a couple months ago, and that was a really fun gig too.
What about it?
Fun. It was the first I played a band show a month into Nashville, but it was the first time I'd played in like a actual venue setting, like it was a very, very nice venue, and my band was great, and it was the first time we'd played like full band with these new guys that I was working with, and we just had so much fun. And I played like 6 or 7 of my songs, and it was just a great overall night. My parents surprised me, which was really fun too. Well, I also sang the national anthem at the Celtics when I was like in high school too, so that was a fun gig. But that was like, I don't even remember that anymore. Like it was lifetimes ago.
Yeah.
But that was like a really cool gig too.
Said no big, just sung for the Celtics.
Yeah. I did it when I was a freshman. I did it when I was a senior.
Dang.
Yeah. It's a wild time.
That's funny that was at the end of your list.
Well, it's just like, it's not like me playing my original music, but it's just...
Yeah.
It was a national anthem thing. My worst gig, though,
Typical.
I don't really know. I think... I haven't really I don't consider gigs to be like my worst in any way, because even if I don't have a lot of people there, even if I'm like sick or I don't sound great, whatever it is, it's a learning experience. So it's fruitful for my career no matter what. I had a few gigs where I was just like so tired, and I was singing like 3-hour gigs each week last summer, and I had a few where I was just like, I don't want to do this all the time, like these 3-hour cover gigs all the time. I'm doing 2 when I go home tomorrow, because they're so much fun when they're once in a while, and my friends are gonna come and see me, but it's when there was every weekend last summer and I was singing at least 3 hours a week, and it was a lot. But those were like the ones I was like, okay, I'm paying my dues, getting it done, making some money.
What do people have to look forward to, like upcoming when it comes to your music? Like what should we be looking out for?
Yeah, I have a lot of dreams to accomplish, but I'd say the things that are actually moving and actually coming to life. I have a song coming out. I don't have a date yet, but it's gonna be in September. We're gonna shoot a music video for it too, so that's exciting. I have a show in New York on August 7th at the Bowery Electric. and it's with a friendly media company, and it's going to be really, really fun. That's coming up. I have a lot of songs that I'm trying to record in the future, in the fall. That's kind of my goal, is to record the songs that I've been playing out in November, October time, and then potentially, well, not potentially, but releasing in like April, May, June, and hopefully going on tour June, July. But that's cool. All up in the air. Those are my dreams. But the actual things that are happening are the song that's coming out and the music video.
Well, that's really exciting. Thank you so much for your time. I also got to have a phone call with Jake from Friendly Media. He's just such a sweet guy.
Isn't he the best?
Yeah, it seems like you've surrounded yourself with some really good people. All the people in LA who were there singing along to your songs, all those people. I saw that video of your senior show where like people are like dancing, holding up your name and a sign. I'm like,
that's the one. That's the night.
You're just surrounded by a lot of really sweet people, and that plus a lot of talent is an incredible engine to take you forward.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very fortunate to have great friends that support each other and build each other up rather than tear each other down. And if I have another piece of advice to give, it would be to surround yourself with those people that will just support you and build you up, even if they're in the music industry. If they're not in the music industry, just you need to have that solid foundation. And if people aren't contributing to that, you can't have that energy. It's going to foster negative energy, and it's not going to let you grow. I think I'd hope I'm a good judge of character. I'm very fortunate to have all my friends that are in music, that are not in music, but still come to my shows and things like that. And Jake is a great, he's awesome. He's just awesome. I'm so glad that I met him. And I'm so glad that you guys talked. That's awesome. He mentioned it to me, but he didn't, I've talked to him like once or twice since LA, so.
It was great. He had a ton of good advice. Well, sweet. Jillian Dawn Hobeika? Say your last name one more time.
Hobeika. It's so
Pleasure.
funny that you brought that up, because no one in Nashville and barely people from school know my actual last name, because my Instagram's Jillian Dawn, so everyone's like, oh, that's her last name. She's not Hobeika. Yeah. What is that?
Well, it's important that we know your government name for
yes.
That
makes sense.
Social security fraud later. All that. Well, again, thank you so much. Pleasure. I'm going to clap us out. Thank you kindly for listening to the podcast. It's really just an excuse for me to meet amazing people and learn from them. So if you like this episode, feel free to take a look at some of the other artists I've talked to, or let me know if there's someone in your life who's a musician that you'd like me to talk to next. You can learn more about my music at connorchurland.com, or find me on Instagram or Spotify under Connor Churland, ConnerCherland. All right, see ya.